Pennsylvania had no idea of what the best practices were around the world and around the country and how to implement those best practices, because county entities are simply not big enough to do that kind of research, to get that kind of thing organized. And so I felt that we needed to do something in Pennsylvania so that we could take the whole of our large and successful state, the 5th largest state in the nation, I believe, and have it put its resources to bear to find out what was going on that worked and to have that help for our kids. We had no idea how many kids had had parental rights terminated, which is terrible. We don't want that to happen, but it was happening. And then there were state-created orphans because nobody was being adopted, because termination would occur in juvenile court, but adoption had to occur in orphans court. And the two didn't talk to each other apropos of this overall disconnect. So we set out, it's not fair to say me. Many really fine people in Pennsylvania had the same frustration. I just happened to win an election, so I was on the Supreme Court and therefore had somewhat of a bully pulpit, and set out to get Pennsylvanians interested in this to talk to each other, to find out what was going on in the world, to try to, as a state, put in practices that would help kids, learning from each other. So that if Greene County and Washington County sitting beside each other, one had a great idea, the other would know about it. And one had an idea that didn't work so well, the other would know about it. So that's why we got going. And even though I'm not necessarily a fan of bigger government, this was a case where we needed some minimal form of government, if you will, so that there could be communication and cooperation across state lines. Today, 96% of the kids in Pennsylvania are all covered by children's roundtables in their counties. They would send 2-3 representatives to intermediate roundtables that we named leadership roundtables because it was going to be the leader of the county agencies, and I couldn't come up with a better name. And the leadership roundtables would allow counties of like size to talk about like problems, solve the problems, hopefully import from other counties brilliant ideas, not follow down the same road if something was tried and didn't work out as well. Now we have a coordinated state. We have best practices in our state, and it's all through the roundtable and the roundtable structure and the roundtable system. Without that, everything falls apart, and we go back to being these islands of counties having no idea what each other are doing. The difficulty in this area is it can be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So it's not a series of discrete steps which get you to a finish line. It's a continuum, and it's a continuous struggle. So what we want to do is to continue to improve our systems, both statewide, but also in every county. So in terms of the future, we want to get to the point where the vast majority of our counties are doing really well. So when something occurs, be it in a courtroom or being it in a county, we can focus our resources on that county. So we want to continue to enhance that communication and cooperation among government. We want to continue to scour the world for what are the best practices. We want to improve the use of the best practices in Pennsylvania that we already have, and we want to bring in the new best practices. We want to eliminate what is known as congregate care. Fancy term, all it means is kids are institutionalized. We want to eliminate that. Institutions are just a horrible place for children, and they're doomed to have a bad childhood, which will lead to a dysfunctional adulthood. We'd also like to eliminate stranger care. Kids do not do well when you pull them out of the family that they love, even if it wasn't a very good family they loved, and you move them to a different neighborhood, a different school, a different physician, a different church, a different place to walk around, and a different group of kids. We want kids to stay in kinship care. If you can't live with your mom, live with your grandma, live with your aunt, live with your uncle, live with somebody from your church who you know really well. Live with your baseball or football coach who you idolize and love. And in our experiences, these people will take kids in and keep them and love them.